Hi, welcome to Murf+E Unfiltered, Zero BS Biz Talk. I'm Kathleen Murphy, your host, and I'm here today with a special co-host, Sherri Crowley. How are you, Sherri?
Good, thank you. I'm so excited about this.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today. I'm switching things up a little bit today, and we're going to talk about looking via a different lens to get things done. And I love your area of expertise as it relates to this topic. And I'm going to get into a little bit more about why we came upon this topic. So, as I said, we're going to switch things up. And what we're going to be talking about today are a variety of different topics, and they include mindset, self-awareness, completing tasks, procrastination, a little bit about ADHD, and ultimately getting things done. But before we do that, I'm going to give the audience a sense of what your background is and why you're here today to join me, because you're so qualified, and I can't wait to get into this. So I'm just going to indulge in telling the audience about who you are. So
Thank
Sherri
you.
is an executive entrepreneurial women's ADHD coach with a passion for helping high-achieving ADHD women sort through the bottlenecks in their personal and professional systems. Using her signature three-pronged holistic approach, she empowers her clients to regain control of their lives, align with their values, and maximize their efficiency and presence at work and home. She is also a psychotherapist, guiding her therapy clients through challenges such as ADHD, burnout, dysfunctional family dynamics, substance abuse recovery, and parenthood, drawing upon her comprehensive professional training, as well as her own journey with ADHD, 27 years of sobriety, and overcoming burnout. A firm believer in the power of AI as a tool, Sherri integrates innovative methods into her work to streamline processes and improve outcomes for both her clients and herself. She is passionate about exploring and evangelizing AI solutions to make anyone's life easier. I like that. When she's not working, Sherri enjoys family time with her husband and her 3 tween boys, skiing the slopes at Sunday River in winter, relaxing on Fire Island beaches in the summer, and is still playing 90s hip hop and deep house music in her headphones. I love that. When I was reading about your sort of style and choice of music, I just kind of could hear it myself playing, and I just think that's fantastic. So we're going to dig in here. And I want to just give some people context in terms of how we met and how we know one another. So a shout out to the Boston Businesswoman Network, which we're both a part of. And I heard today that they hit 50,000 people that are participants, mainly women in this organization. So we're a part of that, and I'm very proud to be. I'm sure you are too. And we
Very.
connected from the fact that we were at an event about a year ago, and it was around the holiday time. And we discovered that we each had some superpowers. And I'll just kind of lay it out there in saying that we discovered that our mutual helping or helping others was our superpower. And I thought that was really exciting. Also, being entrepreneurs, moms, and we think differently. So I have ADD, you have ADHD. And I don't know if you have dyslexia, but I do. So I don't think that you do, but
I don't, but one of my sons has two of my sons have it. One's pretty severe, so I'm
got
familiar with the world.
familiar with that world. That's excellent. So I want to dive in here and talk about perhaps your earliest memory of how you came upon understanding that helping others was your superpower and how you got into wanting to help other people. What did that look like? How did you get to that place?
I love this question, and it's interesting because I have actually a concrete moment that I decided to become a therapist. I think that I always helping people, I always felt good, even doing, even as a kid, little things to help people. It made me feel useful, etc. But the concrete bit is actually kind of funny. I was working as an administrative assistant at Sesame Street, yeah, basically Sesame Street, the organization.
Wow.
I worked in their like in the corporate offices in New York, which by the way, for a corporate office was like it was like fun, colorful and lively. Like it didn't wasn't just gray cubicles, and so that was
I'm
good.
glad to hear that.
You'd hope so. But but I was an admin assistant for the international sales and mar sales team, and I wasn't a very good admin at that point. I hadn't fully known that I had ADHD or ADD, and I didn't know it as a thing, and I really struggled. I didn't have any tools and to manage it, and so I wasn't the best admin assistant. I remember my boss saying, "You need to be 10 steps ahead of me," and I couldn't figure out like how does one even do that. But
Right.
anyway, we had a meeting one day, and the meeting was like this hour-long meeting about what time the show airs in Thailand. And the entire meeting, and I looked around, that was about that. And it was probably one of those ones that could have been an email. But
Right.
I looked, I looked around the table, and there was 5 or 6 people in my team and that I worked for, and all of them seemed very uh, interested and in present in the conversation. And I was thinking, to be completely honest, and I wanted to do a good job, and I'm a hard worker, but I was thinking like, does this, who cares kind of? And in that meeting, I thought to myself, what do I care about and what am I good at? And what kept coming back to me, I don't have any special talents. I don't sing, or I have, not the best singing voice, and I don't have talents like that. But what I'm very good at, as you mentioned, is the superpower is
Yes, you are.
connecting with people
Yes.
and understanding people and kind of inherently, and then cultivated throughout my life and profession now. And so I thought, what am I good at and what do I like doing? And I thought I'm good at connecting and hanging out with people and talking with people.
Perfect.
And that seemed to me in my mind, that's what a therapist or a coach does.
Right. Exactly.
Simplified, I guess. But that's
Exactly.
how, and they help people, and that would help people. And I'd be more helpful in that than I was being as an admin.
Uh, I love that. And then you decided to embark upon, I imagine, going back to school or to schools specifically focused on being a therapist. So, and here you
Yeah,
are
I
today.
left maybe 6 months after that to go to grad school.
That's fantastic. I love the fact that you did that. So for me, I had an aha moment that I may have shared with you, and I've shared with other people on this podcast before. But my aha moment was about 10 years ago when I discovered the concept of Gallup Clifton Strengths Finder to determine what people's top 5 strengths are, so that they could then leverage that as the foundation to understand what their superpowers are and be able to name, claim, and aim those strengths towards a goal that they want to achieve or goals. And I just thought that that was so special, particularly because it was based in positive psychology and the fact that it was focused also not on people's deficits, but their opportunities to take their strengths from being good to amazing, and to instead not ignore people's weaknesses, but instead partner with somebody that perhaps has a strength that you don't, that's going to be complementary to your world. So you don't have to ever think about, oh gosh, I wish I was, say, for example, more analytical or more focused, whatever those strengths might be that you perhaps don't have. And I just thought that that makes a lot of sense to me. And so that was an aha moment for me when I realized that I could take that information and do a lot with it professionally, but that I was going to have to pivot my career out of tech marketing and being an executive in that world to go into the world that I'm in right now as an executive sports coach. And I am so happy that I made that decision. So like you, we had sort of an epiphany of, oh my gosh, not that I wasn't good at being a tech marketer, I was, but I just didn't love it. It wasn't my passion. And when I embarked upon finding out about the Clifton Strengths Finders, that was really what lit me up, and that was really important. And I really, had this passion for wanting to help people like you do, and that was really critically important to me. So I'm curious to hear. We talked a little bit about it earlier in terms of some of the tools that you use with your clients that involve AI. These days, we hear constantly information about AI tools, and all kinds of aspects relating to it. How do you use AI in your practice? What does that look like?
So there's a couple ways. So for myself, I first I got on. I got. ChatGPT, I mean, it's the simple, the simple answer, but it's been really life-changing for me, both professionally and personally. Professionally, because I can share with my clients what, especially the ADD clients, what to use it for. On the side note, in my therapy practice, so clinical notes were the bane of my existence.
Sure.
I could not get these things done. They'd pile up. It'd be like a month later, I'm writing notes. And came across in some, like, not some sales pitch email, an AI clinical notes writing thing, and it was like 20 free sessions. And I tried it, and this was only about maybe 9 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And it was life changing for me. I mean, of course, I ask my clients if they're comfortable. If they're not, I don't use it, but
Right.
most of them have been. It records the session, either telehealth or in person. I click a button after and hit submit, and then it writes the note for me. And then I edit it, and which is usually pretty minimal. And then I copy and paste it into my clinical notes, into my chart. And that has saved me, I'm not exaggerating, probably 6 hours a week.
Wow.
I just really struggled with it. It's not interesting. People with ADHD, if there's not interest in it, it's very hard to motivate and get things
Sure.
going.
Sure.
I
Absolutely.
think that's probably true for anyone. It's harder when you're not that interested and it's boring.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so in my practice, that has been life-changing. I share that tool with all my colleagues. It's been really interesting. I'll just say really quick, because on some of my therapist Facebook groups and such, there's a lot of discussion about, I'd say it's like maybe 50-50. I haven't done a actual study, but it looks like 50-50 in the comments, which again, it's only anecdotal, but of people who say like they'd never use it, it's unethical, et cetera, et cetera. Are they training tools on it? It's going to put us out of jobs. My feeling about AI in general is, if you use it as a tool, it will enhance your productivity in the job that you're doing. And will we all be replaced by AI eventually? I have no idea, maybe. But I think
Hopefully
the
not.
people who don't use AI as a tool will be replaced sooner than the people who do,
Right.
because the people who do use it as a tool will be they're just faster. And it, I don't know, that's my opinion.
Yeah. So we talked earlier about some of the things that we're going to cover. One of those
Yeah.
being procrastination, right?
Yes.
And giving people some maybe suggestions in terms of how they could perhaps not procrastinate, because that seems to be a challenge for a lot of different people. And another topic that I want to make sure that we get covered is helping people from coming off of procrastination, getting them to a point where they feel like they can accomplish something and getting things done. So I want to make sure that we talk about that, in addition to some mindset, self-awareness as well, because these are areas that both of us cover. And one of the things that we were talking about discussion-wise a couple months back was we realized that we have synergies in terms of the people that we work with. And in fact, I had spoken to you and said, hey, I've noticed there's this trend that quite a few of my athletes that I work with also have therapists. And I'm sure, and I also work with business people also, and occasionally they will reference the fact that they have a therapist as well. And I'm working with them, but I'm working with them on different things. I'm working with them more on leadership and self-awareness as relates to the Gallup training, and also with the neuro-linguistic programming tools that I use. And we talked about the fact that like there may be an opportunity to refer people that we're working with to one another, so that we can balance out the care that they might need in order to then get to the place maybe perhaps a little bit faster, because both of us are under the impression in terms of our philosophies that we want to get people to a place as quickly as possible to help them with whatever it is that they're challenged with. We're not of the mindset that we want people to be forever working with us. they can come back to us and talk to us maybe at some other point in time. But I found that fascinating because you were one of the first therapists that I came across where I felt as if you didn't ever see an end, or that you saw a definitive end to the work that you're doing with somebody, which is how I look at things. And I'm not a therapist, but the work that I do is very focused on, okay, let's figure out where you want to get to. I'm going to get you there, and let's go. And then we make it happen. You had a similar philosophy, which I found to be just so refreshing. And so can you talk a little bit about that in terms of why is it that your sort of philosophy is different, and how did you get to that point? And then maybe weave in the context of, it does have to do with getting things done and not procrastinating. So how did you arrive at that thinking?
Well, I just want to note that I loved our conversations over the time of our collaborative work, and I
Thank
have some
you.
clients I've been trying to edge your way that haven't gotten there yet, but I know it would be an amazing compliment. But I got there more out of my own personal therapy experience. I had been in and out of therapy for my most of my life. I'm 47. How old am I? 46. And since I was 13, on and off at various points in my life. And at some point I don't know, maybe 6, 7 years ago,
Hmm.
I realized one day I was talking about the same shit. I don't know if that's if to beat that or not, but same stuff, different layer of the onion
Right.
maybe, but it
Yeah.
was still, and I thought, what's this? That's kind of, it was a personal actually versus professional thing, but I just realized there's so many opportunities and ways that people can heal that it doesn't have to be therapy.
Right.
And I don't want people to like sit here and talk about the same thing for 20 years or 5 years. Then I'm not really doing my job. And I think I came to it that way, but I think my job is to help people. And the way to do that is like, let's have some concrete goals of like of what this is going to look like. If
Right.
what does it mean that this is helping? What does it mean it's not? And if it's not,
Right.
then either what do we need to change?
Hmm.
Or if it's not, then maybe we refer you to someone who could be more helpful
Right.
quicker. I'm a as you spoke to Boston business women, which I'm so grateful for that community. But the thing about that community that's the best is they're really into lifting each other up. And I feel that way. I am someone who believes this just because the sun shines on you, it still shines on me. And so if my way of working isn't working for a client, like let's not do this forever.
Exactly. I love that. And I always was under the impression that it seemed with the therapy model that there was never really a conclusion to the therapy. You just may not even know when you were finished. And so, which is why for the work that I do, which is focused especially on the self-awareness part and mindset, some of the benefits of that are like with indirectly what you're doing as well. You're helping people like myself with confidence and communication and clarity, the 3 C's: confidence, communication, and clarity. Also alignment of their goals and talents,
Yeah.
and having a purposeful focus, which I think is also critical because I've done a tremendous amount of reading and educating myself just in terms of the importance of having, if you will, just to boil it down to the most simplest form, a project, something that you can work on that is going to be beneficial maybe to you and maybe others, and that is constructive. And I find that that's a way that helps me personally with not procrastinating when I have something that I'm excited to do. How about yourself? Like, how do you get people focused and out of procrastination and motivated in the way that you work with them? You have some tips for them?
Yeah, so it's really actually interesting what you were saying. The clarity piece
Yes.
is that I agree is a huge in terms of procrastination. So procrastination, there's actually 7 types of reasons or types behind
I
procrastination,
did not know
maybe
that.
more, but um, overwhelm is a huge one. And I'm just going to bring up two, overwhelm and then fear of there's often sometimes a fear that makes people procrastinate. If they do this thing,
Ah, okay.
then
Okay.
what happens? Or if they do this thing and they don't do it right, there's some kind of fear-based thing in a
Right.
lot of procrastination. And
Right.
so for some people, if we figure out that it's a fear-based procrastination issue, we figure out what is the fear, what is the worst thing that can happen, what um what are some other alternatives, kind of cognitive
Right.
behavior um type exercises, um, but kind of sometimes even just naming what the fear actually, what is it actually about? Because it's
Right.
not usually actually about the task. It's about usually what happens after the task or what happens if you don't do the task perfectly or,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. So that's one thing. So, but the overwhelm, I think for people with ADHD especially, or
Yes.
ADD, whatever you want to call it, um, is that the overwhelm piece is is a huge one. There's so many things to do, and so the clarity piece, before I do anything with a lot of my clients around procrastination, we start with exactly what you, I guess what you start with is clarity around your values
Yes.
and your goals. Because
Exactly.
then
Yep.
if you have, I help people figure out their top three values.
Mm.
And the point of that exercise is top 3 to 5. Because if you know your top values, then every decision you make either goes towards or away from those values, and
Right.
you have a clear place to make decisions from. Once you have a clear place to make decisions from, you're not as overwhelmed because
Exactly.
you have like, oh, this is the thing that I'm going to do to go to the value. And the other piece I will say on the AI piece of this
Mm-hmm.
is that I I share a lot of prompts with my clients where I will use Chat GPT, but for them and myself, put every to do and everything you're procrastinating, every single thing you can think of on, and these to do lists are a million miles long. Put them in with a very clear background,
Uh-huh.
for Chat GPT, for instance, of these are the things that are most important, or if they don't know what's most important, help me figure out I give a lot of background because ChatGPT works the best. The more input it has, the better output it has. Um, so a lot of people don't put real input background in, and then they don't know. It just gives like generic answers, and then they get done with it because it's not really useful. But I put a lot of input based on the person's life, etc., and then say, these are, help me put in all the tasks, and then say, help me prioritize and break them down into the smallest piece of each task. Because
Right.
that's the other thing about procrastination is, can I just do
Sure.
this one little piece?
Right. Right. I love that. I love that. So for me, when people are curious about what it is that I'm going to help them to do, and I'm not focused on the areas that you are, but some of the outcomes of the work that I've done with people is to help them with being able to get promotions, being able to help them with have greater satisfaction from the relationships that they have both at work and personally. I help people. I hear this all the time, which is something I didn't expect to hear, but that they're happier. They're just more joyful based on knowing what their purpose is, what their top 5 strengths are, how to leverage them, etc. And there's less frustration for them because they're not focused on the weakness aspects, which is culturally what we tend to have people unfortunately focus on is weakness fixing. And then also being able to help them with collaborating better with people like we're doing now. So
Yeah,
you found out what your top 5 strengths are, which is really exciting. And
so helpful.
and it was so cool taking you through that because I remember it was this one particular strength. I'm not going to call it out, but that it was an epiphany for you just in terms of oh my gosh, that aha moment. And that to me was just so satisfying to have you hear that, say it out loud, and for me to also be there to recognize this as like a gift that you discovered and really were truly embracing. So that was just completely amazing.
That was
And
truly life
so
changing for me. I will just say really quick is that was life changing for me. Like it was adaptability, I'll call it out. And that
thank
had
you.
always been, as a person with ADHD, had always been irresponsibility, changes your mind, can't stay with one task, all these things that were just so negative. And it
Right.
was like, oh, I am adaptable.
That's
Holy
right.
cow. That is, and that's a real strength.
Exactly. So I love that. So thanks for calling that out. And we have reached the end of our time together
So fast.
today. We always seem to be able to just, have the best conversations and cover all kinds of topics. And despite the fact that we are challenged with ADD or ADHD, we're still able to get things done. I think that we're a good example of making that happen. So thank you for being here today. It was such a delight to have you on, and I'll have to have you come back because there are other topics, of course, that we could certainly talk about that would be so helpful to my listeners. So I want to thank everybody for being here today on Murf+E Unfiltered Zero BS Biz Talk. Please come back to see us again. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you. And thank you, Sherri.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome.